Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going over my top 5 favorite nonfiction books of 2021 and a couple honorable mentions. And if you're looking for my top 5 fiction books of 2021, it's linked down below. Alright, so my first honorable mention is within the self-help genre, and it is called Extreme Ownership: How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. It was a book that came to me at a time I really needed it. And so basically this book is written by 2 former Navy SEALs, and they explore a bunch of principles for leadership with examples from their career as Navy SEALs, but also applying it to business. And I think a lot of these principles could also apply in personal relationships. And so the overarching principle that they have is extreme ownership. And that's basically the idea that leaders need to take full responsibility for whatever happens with their teams. Even if, Buddy over there did something obviously wrong, the leader still takes responsibility for that having happened. And that might sound like extreme, but what I found is that we're all leaders in various parts of our lives, even if we're not like the highest leader. And by taking full responsibility, full ownership over what happens, it actually puts you in a position of control over your life. And I found that really empowering, particularly in a time when I had a heavy file load at work and it seemed impossible and morale was low in the team. By taking responsibility, it actually improved things so much in my day-to-day work life. And there's lots of other really important and helpful principles in that book. So if you're lacking in motivation, or you just feel like work sucks, or if any other aspect of your life could use you maybe stepping up and taking responsibility, I think this is a book that you should really consider. I thought the stories in it about their missions were fascinating, even to somebody who isn't necessarily into like that type of book. So I think it's a really good one for anybody looking to start the year off right. The next book on my list is one that really could have made my top 5, but there was just so many excellent books already on my list. This one is called Nothing to Envy: Ordinary Lives in North Korea by Barbara Demick. So she is a investigative journalist who interviewed defectors from North Korea. But what I love about this book is it explored the entirety of their lives, the good and the bad. And so you follow a girl as she's describing her falling in love in North Korea and family life and that kind of thing. And obviously it goes into just how horrible North Korea is, and it was really eye-opening, but it showed them as full people. It was a really difficult book. There's this one moment out of many in this book that really stood out to me, and it's a doctor, and she's doing her best to save people's lives with absolutely no medical supplies. Like, they're using empty beer bottles as IV bags. But she's still a true believer in the North Korean way of life, even though she's seeing people coming into her hospital starving and having diseases and dying of things that they really shouldn't die of in normal circumstances. Eventually, she's starving herself, and so she escapes to China, where she sees a dog eating rice for its dinner, and she realizes that dogs in China are fed better than doctors in North Korea. It was an incredibly powerful book. It opened my eyes to what's going on in North Korea, and for like those people who are really interested in dystopian novels or George Orwell's 1984, this is a book about basically 1984 but happening now, and you cannot unsee some of the things that you will read. Highly, highly recommended. So moving into my top 5 of the year, the first one on my list is another one where I didn't give it 5 stars right away, and now I'm thinking I probably should have, because I have referenced this book so many times, I've thought about this book so many times, and it just seems so relevant, even though it's about a very specific event. And it's called Midnight in Chernobyl: The Untold Story of the World's Greatest Nuclear Disaster by Adam Higginbotham. So this book is obviously about the nuclear meltdown of Unit 4 in the Chernobyl power plant. But what I loved about this book is it was incredibly written. It was so compelling. The author goes into all the different people involved and the historical context of the era that led to this horrible disaster. So you get history about the Soviet Union and its place in the world, that it was trying to be a scientific powerhouse in relation to the United States. And so they really didn't want to admit to their own failings, which had impacts on the people. You understand basically the pressures that the workers were under to meet quotas. And so even though a lot of them knew they were doing things that could lead to a disaster, they did them anyways. They cut corners because the Communist Party wouldn't have it any other way. They lied to the people. And you see the impact of Chernobyl, even though it's just one event, on the fall of the Soviet Union. So this book did have a lot of Soviet jargon, but I still found it quite accessible, and I just couldn't put it down. So if that sounds good to you, and if you're interested in that piece of history, this is definitely a book that you should pick up. Number 4 on my list is called Say Nothing, A True Story of Murder and Memory in Northern Ireland by Patrick Radden Keefe. And so this book is investigative journalism that goes over what happened in the early 1970s to late 1990s in Northern Ireland, a period called the Troubles. And so this involves guerrilla warfare and the IRA that was trying to fight for a united Ireland. This book does such an incredible job of going over the people that were involved and their motivations and what made them such true believers in their cause, that they would abduct and murder people, that they would try to blow things up, and that they would believe so strongly in the cause that they would go on hunger strike and actually follow through with it. I never understood the political power of a hunger strike until I read this book. I think that Patrick Radden Keefe did such a good job of remaining objective, and he really helped me understand why the Troubles occurred and why events are still popping up in the news that relate to these events. Because for many people, the peace accords of the late 1990s fell far short of their goal of this united Ireland. And so it has helped me to understand that, you know, you can just sort of dig a little bit below the surface and a lot of the same beliefs and tensions still exist in that part of the world. It was a very compelling read, and I think that you will fly through this book because it was definitely one that I couldn't put down. So number 3 on my list is one that is a complete shock to me. I never thought that I would enjoy this book as much as I did because it was a long book. And it is called Helter Skelter, A True Story of the Manson Murders by Vincent Bugliosi with Kurt Gentry. So this is definitely not a book for the faint of heart, and I've said that over and over, because it goes over some very gruesome murders and some very messed up people involved in this cult that was led by Charles Manson. So the beginning of the book does go over what happened with the murders, but the vast majority of the book is actually about the investigation and the trial. And so that's what makes me so shocked about this book. Is it's about 700 pages, and I went into it thinking, okay, like I want to know a little bit more about what happened, but how can I possibly enjoy and be interested in a book that long about an investigation and a trial? But I honestly could not put this book down, and I was gasping out loud at so many parts of it because it boggled my mind. I could not believe that so many young people and young women would follow a man like Charles Manson and actually kill for him. And the reasons behind it, their motivations, which you'll discover in the book, are just crazy. But this book had me absolutely gasping out loud. It's so many parts of it. I couldn't believe the things that happened, even during the trial. And I absolutely flew through this book. So number 2 on my list is a book on negotiation that I found so useful that I had to go out and buy it. And it is called Never Split the Difference: Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It by Chris Voss with Tal Raz. And Chris Voss is a former FBI hostage negotiator. And so he describes the hostage negotiation scenarios that he experienced in his career and applies the different skills and principles of negotiation that he learned. And man, was this a useful book. As I was reading it, I just couldn't help but like talk about it with everybody around me, because so many of the principles and skills made so much sense to me. And I had to buy the book because I was like, man, I need to continue learning this and refreshing myself, because whether we like it or not, so many of us are put in situations where we have to negotiate, whether that's for a wage or for a job, or if you're buying a car. And many of us, including myself, don't have the skills needed to come out on top. This book provides so many helpful skills and tools to use that I think that anybody could find this book useful. So because of that, I had to put it at the top of my list, because this is one I will be referencing throughout my life. And that leaves us with my number one favorite nonfiction book of 2021. And this is a book that definitely took the world by storm. Some people love it, some people despise it, but I am definitely on the side of those who think it is incredible, and that is 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan B. Peterson. And so this book is basically separated into 12 chapters, which are 12 rules for life. And some of these rules are just, well, all of these rules are just so powerful and important. I'll just list a few of them. Rule 1, stand up straight with your shoulders back. Rule 4, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Rule 7, pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Rule 10, be precise in your speech. And Jordan Peterson just does such a phenomenal job of incorporating different symbolism and myths and scientific facts to help you understand the importance of these rules to your life. I have gotten so much out of this book. I know so many other people have as well, and it's one that you could go back to time and again. It's a book that if you're feeling low in life, if you're feeling like you're not in control, if you're feeling bad about yourself, if you feel like you don't have direction, it's one that you should pick up, because you will absolutely, I guarantee it, find something in here that will help you. This is definitely a book that will meander around, but it is one where the journey will give you just as much as the destination. And I think that you should absolutely consider picking this book up in 2022, particularly if you are having some trouble in your life, because I know you'll find something in here that will help you out. With that, that is my list of my top 5 favorite nonfiction books of 2021. I hope that you found something on here that you want to pick up. And please leave me a comment down below telling me what you read in 2021 in the nonfiction genre that you would recommend to me, because I'm always looking for recommendations. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.